about, before I get into why it took me so long and to make a video, why this and that. I told y'all going into this game that the Fever was going to win. I was one of the people that did not expect them to lose this one. Go back and look. I told y'all they was going to win. I didn't think they was going to be down by 20 and come back and win. Kelsey Mitchell immediately erupted. But, guys, it took me a while to make this video because I'm trying to get my thoughts together and gather my emotions because my second favorite player on the team is done, and that is Sophie.
The WNBA just cranked the drama dial straight to reality TV levels. Fresh footage hits, and suddenly Stephanie White is breaking down like a kid watching their balloon float away, rattled by Sophie Cunningham and a looming lawsuit double-teaming her sanity. That's right, tears, turmoil, and legal paperwork all rolled into one wild episode. Forget calm sidelines, this is chaos with a courtside view. If you thought the league was strictly about jumpers and highlights, this twist proves it's also about meltdowns and mayhem.
Well, my goodness, it took a Hercules-like effort from Kelsey Mitchell in the second half of the game to bail out Stephanie White. My God, it took overtime for the Indiana Fever to beat the worst team in the league, they're now 6-27. We're whipping the Indiana Fever's asses for 3 quarters.
This wasn't just basketball, it morphed into a full-on street fight wrapped in a WNBA uniform. Sophie Cunningham wasn't out there just running plays or contesting shots, she became the unwilling victim of what could have doubled as a WWE highlight reel. Sportsmanship? Please. This was less about pick and roll and more about trip and crash. One moment she's locked into the game, and the next she's got a full-sized opponent tumbling across her leg like it was a spare couch cushion. Professional hoops? Nah, this scene belonged on pay-per-view wrestling night.
A dirty Bria, of course, it had to be a dirty Bria. I would really hate to see ya in a dark alley. Dirty Bria Hartley back at it again with her shenanigans, and this time around she had her eyes set on one Sophie the Trophy Cunningham. Sophie, get well soon. Hopefully the MRI later today shows nothing too serious. Would love to see you.
If you're enjoying, please leave a like and subscribe our channel. And here's the craziest part, we're expected to brush it off like it's just basketball. No chance. That wasn't a rebound attempt, it was a full-on body tackle straight out of nowhere. What unfolded on the court looked less like athletes competing and more like background actors rehearsing for a scrapped bar fight sequence in some bargain bin action flick. If this kind of circus is what's being passed off as professional play, then the WNBA might as well ditch the basketball branding altogether and go on tour as a traveling stunt show, because that spectacle had zero resemblance to real competition.
And I want to talk about what Coach Stephanie White had to say after the game. During an interview, she said these players have something inside of them that you just can't teach. They bring it out in each other, and it allows us to get through these incredibly tough times. It gives us a chance. I'm so incredibly proud of them for continuing to believe. And that is something where I feel like the media or other players have said that the Fever have locker room issues, and we even heard that last season. It seems like this core group, since DeWanna Bonner has departed and she is no longer with the team, it seems like this group really has come together, and whether they are winning or losing, they do have a sense of together.
Sophie was a target, no debate. There was nothing accidental about it. The tired oops, I slipped excuse doesn't sell when every camera angle shows the same thing, a reckless dive meant to send her crashing. Anyone with working eyes and access to the replay could see the intent dripping off that moment. If body language could yell, this one was screaming at full volume. And then to dress it up as just a tough play? Give me a break. That wasn't grit or hustle. That was a straight-up cheap shot, an assault dressed in basketball gear.
Sophie Cunningham, oh man, I gotta tell you, this victory, it came with a big price. Bree Hartley, let me just start there because we've got Sophie Cunningham's sister and mother weighing in on the league. And Bria Hartley right here. This is Hartley right here coming in.
Slide over right there. And Hartley just kind of falls
and she
crushes
in on the knee of Sophie right here.
She went down hard.
And that was it.
That's like she tried
Sophie
to
was upset.
Right and Hartley just kind of falls
and right there once again into the knee. They had to pull out towels to sort of cover the situation up. Bria Hartley getting absolutely destroyed by everybody.
Imagine training your whole life to be in peak condition, just to end up used as a crash pad for a frustrated opponent who thinks the best defense is sacrificing their body onto your knee. Sophie didn't sign up for rugby. She didn't audition for the role of human floor mat. Yet here she is, nursing an injury while the instigator walks around pretending it's just business as usual. If that's not madness, I don't know what is. And let's talk consequences. Because in any sane league, you throw yourself on someone's leg and potentially jeopardize their career, and you don't just walk away with a pat on the back. Hartley should be cutting checks for every single one of Sophie's medical bills, plus interest. Doctor's visits, therapy sessions, crutches, ice packs, the whole kit. If Sophie has to limp, Hartley should feel it in her wallet. That's justice. Anything less is a joke. But paying the bills alone doesn't cut it. There's also the question of accountability within the league. Suspension isn't optional, it's mandatory. And not some weak, slap-on-the-wrist suspension where you sit out a game and come back with fresh braids. No, it needs to be a true you're gone as long as Sophie is gone punishment. Eye for an eye. Leg for a leg. If Sophie's watching games from the couch, then Hartley should be right there next to her, remote in hand, instead of suiting up and pretending like nothing happened. That's the only way the punishment fits the crime.
Indiana Fever with a hell of a comeback versus the Connecticut Sun. We're going to get to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the ugly. Prayers up for Sophie Cunningham. One half of the Blonde Bombers. Sophie, the trophy, is done for the season with a horrific lower leg injury. I don't know if it's her knee. I don't know if it's an Achilles. It looked bad. She's going to be done for the year. I don't know how much longer the Indiana Fever can continue to survive with these injuries. I just have to be honest. I got to be real. We lost Sydney Colston to a torn ACL. Ari McDonald broken bone in her foot. Caitlin Clark has played like 12 games all year or something like that. Dewana Bonner scammed us. I mean, it's been a complete shit show, to say the least.
The WNBA is standing at a crossroads, and honestly, the decision isn't rocket science. Either it steps up to protect its players, or it admits that reckless takedowns are now part of the nightly entertainment. Because let's be real, when the game on the court starts resembling organized chaos instead of basketball, the argument for shutting the whole thing down doesn't sound so outrageous anymore. Why keep pretending otherwise? If the main storyline becomes injury lists instead of box scores, what's the actual point of keeping the lights on? Fans don't buy tickets to watch demolition derbies disguised as hoops. They come to see talent, skill, and competition, not Sophie Cunningham being flattened like she's stunt casting for an action flick. And here's the kicker. The way Bria Hartley collapsed onto Sophie's leg, you'd think she was auditioning for a gymnastics meet. The landing form? Maybe a 9.5 from the judges. The intent? Straight 0. Because the only thing on display wasn't athleticism, it was recklessness. Sophie doesn't just walk away with a bruised body. She's left carrying the burden of proving her pain isn't just part of some normal physical play. That's the insult layered on top of the injury, and it's one the league can't keep ignoring.
Where Sophie Cunningham went out in the first half. And that was such a huge blow for the Indiana Fever because Sophie Cunningham has been somebody, she has been the glue of this team since Caitlin has been out. She is playing so incredibly well during the second half of this season. She plays hard every single night. She's super tough. She doesn't make excuses. Like, she is somebody who has really held this team together, and seeing her go down in the first half, like, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what it was at first when I saw.
And that's the insult piled on top of injury here. It's not enough to limp off the floor, she has to listen to a parade of excuses about how these things happen. No. These things don't just happen. Intentional recklessness happened. And until the league grows a backbone and admits it, the cycle continues. Meanwhile, fans are left shaking their heads, wondering how something so blatantly dirty can be overlooked. If this same nonsense went down in the NBA, you'd see suspension headlines plastered everywhere by morning. But in the WNBA? Crickets. Maybe a weak statement, maybe a fine that barely covers dinner at a mid-tier steakhouse. It's laughable. No wonder people are fed up. If the league wants to keep a shred of credibility, this is the hill to stand on. But instead, it looks like they're content letting it all slide. The irony here is staggering. Sophie should be the headline for her gameplay, for her shooting, for her hustle. Instead, she's the headline because someone decided to use her as a crash landing. And all the while, the guilty party escapes with barely a bruise to her reputation. It's almost comical how backwards this has become. The victim's spotlight is pain, the instigator's spotlight is excuses, and the league's spotlight is dimmer than ever.
Mitchell saved this team today, and I told y'all, go back to the video I posted last night. I told y'all Bria Hartley is a dirty player. She's no different than Dejanay Carrington. It just doesn't get as much publicity because the Connecticut Sun stink. Point blank, period. She's reckless. She injured Sophie Cunningham, and it is a travesty. Stephanie White, you better go and you need to be buying Kelsey Mitchell food all week. You need to send her a personal masseuse because she saved your job tonight.
The longer this drags out, the louder the calls become to scrap the whole operation. Because really, why keep pretending this is a professional league if the professionalism is nowhere to be found? At this point, calling for the WNBA to disband isn't just a hot take, it's starting to sound like the most rational solution on the table. If the league can't even enforce basic safety, then the entire foundation collapses. What you're left with is chaos disguised as sport. And that chaos isn't entertaining, it's exhausting. Fans don't tune in for carnage. They want buzzer beaters, not body slams. This isn't a league right now, it's a liability. And until that changes, don't be shocked when voices get louder about shutting the whole operation down. Because the second the spectacle becomes more about lawsuits and medical bills than actual basketball, the WNBA stops being a sport and turns into a circus.
Is driving in. Sophie Cunningham, or Kelsey Mitchell comes down. Sophie Cunningham overhelps, and Bria Hartley just kind of plows through her leg by the looks of things. So I need to see where she plows through. She kind of plows through the knee. And Sophie's holding like her patella. She's holding her patella. It does look like it's a patella. It's a patella injury. Normally people will hold higher in their knee if it's a knee ligament injury.
And unfortunately for Sophie, she was the main act in a circus she never signed up for. And as if Sophie getting bulldozed wasn't outrageous enough, the referees just stood there like confused mall cops watching a fight break out in the food court. Whistles in hand, stripes on their backs, yet somehow completely useless. They didn't blow the whistle, didn't issue a tech, didn't even flinch. If this is what officiating looks like, then they may as well replace these clowns with cardboard cutouts holding whistles. At least cardboard wouldn't insult us by pretending to watch. And let's be real, the refs not acting isn't some isolated slip-up. It's part of a bigger rot that starts at the very top. The commissioner owns this disaster. When the people in charge set the tone that accountability is optional, you get refs who treat blatant assaults like background noise. When the commissioner shrugs, the refs shrug. And when the refs shrug, Sophie gets carried off like a casualty in a sport that's supposed to be about athleticism, not survival.
All right, so we were talking about a couple things when it came to Stephanie White, right? And one of the things were, does she really care about winning? Now, she looks very effusive, right, on the sideline, giving a lot of energy, looking like she cares, getting pissed off. It was times where Caitlin Clark even had to hold her back from yelling at the refs, right? So I would think she wants to win. I don't think she's trying to throw anything. Now, I can admit, when it comes to the end of the game, her rotations, her deciding who to play and who not to play, it does make her look a little bit enigmatic.
You can put all of this on the commissioner's shoulders. The entire debacle is a trickle-down embarrassment. If leadership actually cared about protecting players, this wouldn't have happened. Because refs would know, without a shadow of a doubt, that ignoring a reckless takedown is career suicide. Instead, the message is clear: do nothing, say nothing, and collect the paycheck. That's the standard now. The commissioner has turned referees into glorified wallpaper, always there, but contributing absolutely nothing. Think about the insanity of it. In any other league, one player collapsing on another's leg would bring instant whistles, stoppage of play, ejections, and a press conference about player safety. In the WNBA? The WNBA has been begging for fans to take them seriously, but how can anyone take a league seriously when the refs treat dangerous collisions like they're watching paint dry? Fans don't pay to see officials turn their backs on chaos. They don't tune in to watch a commissioner spin excuses about unfortunate accidents.
Where has Stephanie White's best friend, Carolyn Peck, been? And where has the Indiana Fever are a more dangerous team without Caitlin Clark conversation gone? How come once the Indiana Fever suddenly stop that 5-game win streak, lose 3 of their last 4, how come Carolyn Peck has suddenly stopped showing up on TV? How come that narrative of the Indiana Fever are more dangerous without Caitlin Clark? Why has that suddenly stopped?
They tune in for basketball, and what they got instead was Sophie Cunningham being used as a landing strip with zero consequences. That's not basketball, that's negligence on national television. The commissioner could have made this right with one strong statement, one bold punishment, one sign that the league values its players' health. But no, instead we get silence and platitudes. And that silence is louder than any whistle the refs refuse to blow. It screams to the world, we don't actually care. And once that message is out, good luck convincing fans otherwise. If that's natural, then maybe I've misunderstood the entire concept of sport. Natural is defense and offense battling it out. Natural is sweat and hustle. Natural is players hitting shots, not hitting each other's joints. What happened wasn't natural, it was negligence wearing a referee's jersey and a commissioner's silence as its shield. And here's where it really gets ridiculous: if Sophie's injury sidelines her long term, the ripple effect doesn't just hurt her, it hurts the entire team, the fans, the competition.
Just to see her go down, to see, like, it's just emotional, guys. Just, I'm hella mad. Hartley need to be suspended on a major level completely. Probably she's at this point she's more dirtier than Dejanay Carrington. Just the countless of dirty plays she has been doing over the last couple weeks has just been remarkable, and it's shocking that she's not suspended. Sophie Cunningham was getting attacked from the opening part of this game. Let me pull up something here real quick, guys, but I am hella mad, bro. Sophie did not deserve any of that happened to her today, and it is very, very unfortunate.
That's a franchise cornerstone sitting because some referee was too scared to blow a whistle and a commissioner was too lazy to enforce standards. Imagine being that incompetent and still cashing a commissioner's paycheck. If incompetence were a sport, the WNBA's leadership would be undefeated champions. The whole situation feels like a masterclass in failure. Step 1, a player recklessly injures a star. Step 2, referees pretend they've suddenly lost vision and hearing. Step 3, the commissioner does her best impression of a mannequin, saying nothing while the league crumbles around her. The disease is at the top, rotting everything below it. You can't expect referees to enforce rules when leadership doesn't enforce accountability. The fish rots from the head, and the commissioner's head is practically a landfill at this point. If fans are furious, it's not just about one injury. It's about years of this nonsense piling up with no resolution. Every time something like this happens, trust erodes a little more.
Understand what she's doing. I've been saying it for the past couple games where I'm like, man, I'm just not understanding why you're not playing this player, that player. What's up with the rotation? I find myself doing this a whole lot. So at some point, I have to say, yeah, she just has to get out of her own way when it comes to rotations, who you're playing, who we're getting the ball to, when the hot hands are going. These things are kind of confusing. Now, my biggest example would be Chloe Bibby. Now, I've been talking about Chloe Bibby for a good amount of games now, and the thing is, the Dallas game, yes, they lost, but she shot 100% from the three.
And now, because of total inaction, the commissioner has turned Sophie Cunningham's injury into a full-blown debate over whether the WNBA even deserves to exist. That's how disastrously this was handled. Basketball is supposed to be about structure, rules, fairness, competition inside the lines. What we witnessed instead was sanctioned chaos. The refs swallowed their whistles, the commissioner failed to hold them accountable, and Sophie paid the price while the league shrugged it off as just part of the game. That isn't basketball, it's betrayal. And here's the thing, fans see through it. They know when the system's broken. If this continues, the league won't need to formally shut down. It'll crumble all on its own, buried under the weight of its negligence and incompetence. If you enjoyed leaving a like and subscribing, more videos are on the screen now.